So what's up everyone? Today we are going to be doing Saturn in the third house. Yes sir. Yes ma'am. Sorry. So Saturn in the third house in your birth chart. And what happens when Saturn is in your third house? And I know you guys have been stressing that how come you don't do Saturn retrograde in these houses? What does it mean, Saturn retrograde? Listen, Saturn in any houses or any planet in any houses when it's retrograde, all it's doing, it's reflecting more on their shortcomings. They put themselves under more pressure regarding the things of those planets. Okay, they think about those things a lot versus other people. You know, Saturn in the second house feels unprivileged by family and mother. Retrograde Saturn will feel more, but due to feeling that more and you reflecting that more, you're going to come out a lot better versus even a regular Saturn retrograde, because you're able to see every mistake that you have made in the past, because Saturn makes you repeat mistakes until you learn them. So when Saturn is retrograde permanently in your birth chart, for every mistake you do, you completely concentrate on it and then you try to improve it. Versus when it's not retrograde and it's in there, you make a mistake, you may forget about turning that mistake around, but then you'll make that mistake again. Okay, so that's what it is. But Saturn in the third house. So what is third house? Third house represents your siblings. Third house represents your courage. Okay, your willpower. Represents your neighbors and short distance travel and everybody surrounding your short distance. Okay. Third house represents communication and media industry. So any kind of communication, whether it's through writing, whether it's to speaking, okay, is represented through the third house. And also media industry is represented through the third house. So when Saturn comes here, okay, Saturn is what? Again, restriction, boundaries, discipline, order, okay, restriction in your life, reality. Wherever Saturn is, he's going to show you the reality of the world. Whether it's good or bad, he's going to show you the both in the most realistic form. He's going to show you the true happiness and true, reality of things, as in sadness, I guess. Okay. So in third house, Saturn, what it does, first of all, it restricts your relationship with your siblings. So your relationship with the siblings will be very kind of professional, or you guys may not communicate with each other so much, especially in the early days until midlife. You guys will, especially people with the Saturn in the third house, your siblings will try to always attack you. And this is not their fault, okay? The thing is, you are born into a family with your planetary situation where they're just playing their part. So if your dad was abusive, he was just playing his part due to whatever you have done in your past life, due to whatever mishaps you have done in some other planet in the past life. Okay, so your father abusing you, he's just fulfilling his duty. So here, siblings kind of become a rivalry. You do not have that good communication with the siblings unless there's a Venus or Jupiter aspect or influence on this house. And here in the third house, Saturn makes the mental concentration of a person very slow yet steady. And what do I mean by this is that when you're in school with the Saturn in the third house, you will not be able to understand and grasp what the teacher is saying as much. However, because Saturn is a slow-moving planet, it is making your ability to mentally concentrate on something very, very slow. Okay, and the aspect, it does its own job with Saturn third aspect on the fifth house of education, okay, which blocks the education. Not blocks it, but gives a long break. We'll get to that. But here, you become kind of like a lifelong learner of knowledge and philosophy. Okay, your philosophical views, the true teachings of a guru, the true philosophical ideas, the true progressive and liberal ideas in this world come slow to you. So you are very ignorant in your young age. You're mature, you have a very mature mind with Saturn in the third house, but it's a bit ignorant. So let's say at 14 years of age, because of the house you grew up in, you become a very conservative liberal, conservative Republican. Okay, you're all about individualism and you're all about the small government. But then when you grow up at 27, 28, 35, you finally realize that, oh my God, we do actually need government. We do actually need social programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. These things do make sense. And you'll be like, oh my God, if it wasn't for FDR when we went through a Great Depression, we would still be in that great rut if it wasn't for government social programs. Okay, so you start to understand the world philosophical view with Saturn in the third house. And what happened is, because you're a slow learner, everything goes slow. So third house represents communication, ability to communicate, media industry, ability to write. Ability to write actually kind of is good, but everything comes late. So communication becomes very limited. You might be shy. You might you might be very introverted because you don't want to communicate. Okay. But what Saturn does, because Saturn is a slow moving planet and it takes a long time to finish its task, these people make very good novelists. Novel is what? It's not a 100-page thing. It's not even a 200-page thing. Novel is like 400 or 500-page long book. Okay, just look at Harry Potter. It's like what, 1,500 pages, 1,600 pages, the whole series, if not more. I think it's 2,000 pages, right? It's like 300 pages for each series, and there are like 7 books that were out there. Okay, so 2,100 almost pages. So that is Saturn's job. Saturn slows that progress down. So you write slow, and you write for a long time for that particular project. When you speak slow, and you speak for a long time. So if you have a seminar, these people later on down in the life, when Saturn releases its karmic debt from you, okay, when he realizes that, okay, you've understood what you've done wrong and everything, you're trying to improve, he says, okay, here's the release, which comes between 30 and 35. You can have a seminar somewhere and you'll speak for 6 hours straight on one subject. Okay. Then what happens is Saturn aspects, wherever Saturn sits, it's aspect the 3rd, 7th, and 10th place from itself. So in the 3rd house, Saturn aspects the 5th house of education and children and entertainment and media and arts. 7th house of the 9th house with a 7th aspect of teachers, gurus, teachings of the father, philosophical views, beliefs, your beliefs. And then the 12th house, because the 10th aspect is on the 12th house of your imagination, your subconsciousness. Okay, all of these things become very limited before the age of 35. So your teaching of your father will not be there, or it will be very limited. You'll have a very limited sense of learning something from your father or from teachers. Okay, Saturn aspect on the 5th house limits your ability to graduate on time from school. So you may graduate high school, but then you may not go to college for like 10 years. So you'll be graduating, you might get your bachelor's at 35, you might get your master's or PhD at 42. So what happens is your educational and your knowledge base is like a lifetime thing. Like you're always trying to learn, because learning comes slow to you. And that progressive mind, and that you finally start to get the grasp of the true, principles on how to live life. So, if at the early age you disrespected culture and religion, once 35, 36 hits, then you're more into your religion and culture. You finally understand, oh my God, this was such valuable information. I should have gotten the grasp of it early. But never blame yourself, because this was your situation. Your Saturn wanted to teach you something based on whatever has happened in the past. And that's why you have this alignment. Okay. So again, and then what happens is Saturn brings fear into you. Saturn is fear. Okay. And it's kind of unnecessary fear. In the 3rd house is efforts and willpower. So Saturn in the 3rd house brings fear into you, okay, regarding your efforts. You will feel like, okay, I am about to put my efforts into this. What will happen? Will it go good? Will it go bad? Is my business going to fail? Is my business not going to fail? You will have this constant fear. But here's the weird thing about this. The more fear you build up with Saturn in the 3rd house, the more you're going to go towards that thing. It's like your sonic boost, your thrust is fear. So the more fear you build up, it's gonna collapse and you're gonna go forward. However, here's the thing with the Saturn in the third house, which I discussed in that, that one planet responsible for making you a business person. In the house of self-efforts, when Saturn comes, these people cannot work in a team situation. They cannot work under somebody. They have to have their own business. But only after the age of 32 will you be able to be successful in your business. Till then, you're going to have to suffer. You're going to have to be in administrative position. You may work for a government in administrative work. You may work for lower kind of jobs, and you will be forced to work in a team when you know yourself. You want to work alone. You want to be isolated, and you want to be your own boss. But this will not come till after 32. So after 32, these people are the people who just in the back of their mind, they just know they cannot work for anybody and they want to do their own thing. They want to have their own business. So this placement, if you are the person who doesn't like being in a team and teamwork, if you're playing basketball and you just want to get the ball at the last minute and you want to make that shot, it's not, there's nothing wrong with you here. But again, Saturn is teaching you something here, that teamwork is important, okay? Which you will later realize in 35, 36, you'll be like, okay, I do need a team to be successful, okay? But Saturn effects is there all throughout life. So you will feel that, you know what, I need to be in charge, but have a team that I can control. Because when you're not in control, having a team is a burden. But if I can tell the team, do this, and this, and they show it to me and I decide what goes in there, that becomes more of a well-dignified teamwork scenario for these people. And also remember, with Saturn looking over to the 5th house, your love life will be restricted with this as well till your midlife, because 5th house represents romance. So when Saturn is looking at the 5th house, you're going to have either a lot of boyfriends or girlfriends, because none of them will stick until the age of 35. Now, here Saturn is not looking at the 7th house. So that means he's not restricting marriage. So with this placement, if you were to do an arranged marriage without love or romance being involved, it'll work. Now, unless Saturn is sitting with the significator of the 7th house, for a man's chart Venus and a woman's chart Jupiter, and if he's aspecting in the 5th house and they're sitting in the 5th house, then you can see the delay of marriage in there, because because if you watch my delay of marriage or my delay of articles on my website, you will know. So if from 3rd house Saturn is in conjunction or aspects the 7th house significator and the 7th lord, that means the marriage could be delayed. In your stocks and if you go into gambling, any kind of gambling business or stock market business, speculative business, until the age of 32 or 34, it's restricted. So if you bet a lot, you will lose a lot of bet, unless of course Saturn is excelled. If Saturn is excelled, he will help you a lot in those matters. But if Saturn is neutral or debilitated, and if it's not in its own sign, then he will do his job as usual. But again, even the excelled Saturn will restrict certain things in this house. Okay, so guys, this was my analysis of Saturn in the 3rd house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe above. And if you want to know more about where your Saturn is placed and your other placement in your own chart, check out the link below. Check out my book, The Astrology at the Speed of Light. And when you get that book and you follow the directions on the page, I will send you the link to look at your own chart so you can see what's going on with your Saturn and restrictions, limitations in life, where they are. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.